Welcome to The Explainer. We are jumping right into a fascinating and, frankly, pretty unsettling breakdown of the modern, bloodless coup d'etat. What we're unpacking today is a source document that exposes the physics, the actual patents, and the tactical protocols of an entirely invisible war. So, think about this. How do you completely neutralize an opposing force without firing a single bullet? We're rapidly moving away from traditional kinetic warfare, the messy, highly visible world of bullets, shrapnel, and explosions. Instead, military superpowers are entering a terrifying new reality, a battlefield where weapons literally leave zero ballistic trace. I want you to picture this scenario for a second. You have heavily armed, highly trained elite guards actively defending a fortified compound. And then, suddenly, they all just drop to the ground. There are no bullet holes anywhere. There's zero structural damage to the facility. There's no chemical residue, no smoke, and absolutely no gas. Yet these elite defenders are completely paralyzed. They're violently vomiting, clutching their heads, utterly incapacitated. Their will to fight is just gone, completely shattered. And the most unsettling part of this entire scenario, it all happens without a single shot fired. It is done entirely with sound. The documents we're looking at call this the Acoustic Siege. It's a tactical approach that takes a target's own biological makeup and turns it into their biggest vulnerability. Let's start with Section 1 and look at the concept of the bloodless coup. To really ground this in reality, the source text frames a very specific operational example: the rumored extraction of Nicolas Maduro from his heavily fortified presidential compound. The claim here is that this high-value extraction was executed using directed acoustic weapons, or DAWs. An invisible acoustic barrage instantly immobilized the compound's defenders. This allowed special ops teams who were wearing specialized acoustic dampening gear to literally just walk right in, unimpeded, secure their target, and then, just flip a switch to turn the weapon off. Moving to Section 2, let's break down the actual physics of this acoustic siege. To understand how a weaponized sound system actually works, we really have to look at infrasound. This operates entirely below human hearing, which cuts off at around 20 hertz. Because these frequencies are so incredibly low, their wavelengths are massive. To put that in perspective, a 10 hertz wave is roughly 112 feet long. So unlike high-frequency sound that just bounces harmlessly off a wall, these massive waves easily punch right through solid concrete and steel. When hit by an infrasonic wave, a fortified concrete bunker simply becomes a giant resonant echo chamber. Which brings us to Section 3, weaponizing visceral resonance. This is where things get really dark. Visceral resonance is the concept where the human body literally becomes the instrument being played. You see, every physical object has a natural resonant frequency. Your eyeball, for instance, resonates at roughly 18.98 hertz. Hitting the human eye with this exact frequency physically vibrates the optical fluid. This causes severe vertigo and triggers the perception of terrifying shadow figures in your peripheral vision. Meanwhile, your visceral organs, like your stomach and liver, naturally resonate right between 5 and 9 hertz. And sitting smack in the middle of that visceral range is the exact kill zone frequency, 7 hertz. When a directed beam of infrasound hits a human target at precisely 7 hertz, it forces those internal organs into a state of violent sympathetic vibration. The document outlines how this 7 hertz frequency triggers a devastating physiological cascade. First, it hits you with profound, crippling nausea. Then, the intense mechanical vibration triggers massive gastrointestinal spasms, which leads to an explosive loss of bowel control. But the third and final stage is by far the darkest. Because this threat is entirely invisible, the conscious mind simply cannot rationalize what is happening to the body. It directly stimulates the amygdala, instantly plunging the target into a state of primal, doom-induced terror that completely shatters their will to fight. Okay, Section 4. Let's look at the audio spotlight patent. Now, you might be thinking this all sounds like sci-fi, but the source doesn't just theorize here, it points directly to a literal paper trail of US patents. It helps to think of this as a two-part weapon system. The first patent is the delivery, essentially how you shoot sound like a laser beam through solid walls. And a second patent is the payload, the exact frequencies needed to remotely hack human biology. Let's dive into the delivery system first. This is U.S. Patent 6444-160, often referred to as the audio spotlight, filed by F. Joseph Pompey.
It details something called a parametric acoustic array. Instead of a normal speaker that just blasts sound everywhere in all directions, this technology takes two highly focused, completely inaudible high-frequency ultrasonic beams and crosses them. The physics here are absolutely wild. When those two silent beams intersect in midair, their nonlinear interaction actually materializes a third, low-frequency node exactly at the point of intersection. The source claims this is the key. It allows operatives to project a node of extreme, targeted acoustic pressure right inside a closed room, completely bypassing the outer walls.
Section 5. Hacking the nervous system. So, what exactly are they delivering with that targeted acoustic node? The text points us to this incredibly chilling quote from U.S. Patent 6017302, which was granted to a man named Hendrikus Luce. It describes using pulsed acoustic fields to, quote, excite sensory resonances in the human body. The document views this patent as essentially a literal blueprint for remotely hacking the human nervous system through sound. Digging deeper into Luce's patent, it specifies operating in the extremely low half hertz to 2.4 hertz range to remotely manipulate the autonomic nervous system. Now, while the patent itself mentions using these pulsed acoustic fields for things like relaxation or drowsiness, the source document argues that the military tactical application is much, much darker. By simply cranking up the amplitude of these precise frequencies, the military can transform what was designed as a calming device into an immobilizing weapon of absolute terror, triggering that exact amygdala panic we discussed earlier. Let's pull this all together in Section 6, the invisible battlefields. When you combine that wall-penetrating delivery system with the biological payload, the landscape of modern tactical operations is changed forever. We completely shift from kinetic warfare over to acoustic warfare. We're replacing messy physical projectiles like bullets and tear gas with entirely invisible infrasonic frequencies. Unlike kinetic weapons that get easily stopped by thick concrete barriers, acoustic waves penetrate those barriers effortlessly. And the real kicker? They leave absolutely zero ballistic trace or chemical residue behind. It's the perfect, untraceable weapon. So what does this actually look like in the field? The source document outlines the tactical execution of this modern bloodless coup step by step. First, drones or stealth vehicles quietly map the target compound. Then, unseen operators dial in those highly specific resonant frequencies, 18.98 Hz to target the vestibular system and that devastating 7 Hz for the visceral organs. They project intersecting ultrasonic beams straight through the reinforced concrete walls. The target's biology is instantly thrown into severe resonance, effectively neutralizing any and all resistance. Finally, the extraction team simply walks through the front door, secures the target, and turns off the dial. The implications laid out in these documents are truly staggering. I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. In a world where directed sound is a viable, patented, wall-penetrating weapon designed to literally vibrate your own organs into submission, physical armor is completely irrelevant. So how you defend yourself on a battlefield you can't even see. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Stay curious, and I'll see you next time.